Joker's face.
Yeah.
What was it like for you and Greg to come up with, to decide to go through with such a huge change to that character? And did you have a plan while writing Death of the Family? Did you have a plan for Joker after the events of that? Because Future's End, in 5 years, he's going to have a face again.
Well, yeah, it won't be 5 years before he shows up again. There's always been a second part to that story. I mean, for me, the whole idea, by the way, we didn't do the face. That happened in Detective. And what happened was Tony Daniel was writing Detective, and DC basically wanted us to make up new villains for the new 52 and to kind of move some of the iconic villains to the side so we could show off our new villains. So we did Court of Owls, and his job was sort of to move the Joker away a bit, and he came up with a couple options. And I pushed him away from a couple of them that I thought would make it very hard to make the Joker scary afterwards, and or that I just worried that we wouldn't have story for. And this one, at least, I felt I could work with in some way, and he had come up with it and thought of it, and I had sort of encouraged it as well. And so it was something that was joint, but I would say I don't want to take credit from him in the way that that was really his doing and his decision ultimately. And I just had said, if you do that, I know how to use that later on. But it's your call, and you can either do that or these other options to get him away from the DCU for a while. So that's how that happened. And then for Joker, yeah, it was always a story that's like, that one was supposed to be kind of about love, in the sense that Joker is saying, we love you, your villains, all of us love you. We love you as a kind of Bat King, and we are your subjects, or your court, and we are here to keep you eternal and forever. We all transformed ourselves and sort of metamorphosized into these bizarre, sort of iconic, larger-than-life characters because we're not human either. We'll exist forever in songs, and we are the legends of Gotham. But you have made a mistake, and you are starting to hang out with these human people that love you as whoever you are under that mask, and it's dragging you down. And Joker sees himself as making a real appeal to him, saying, this is what you want in your heart of hearts, is to kill them all. And then when he gets rejected and thrown off the cliff at the end, spoiler, sorry, spoiler alert if you haven't read it, he's going to come back now and be like, now I just fucking hate you. Now we all hate you, and now I'm just here to wreck everything because you ruined it. You're not worthy of us, so I'm going to take it all away. And that's always been sort of the love-hate sort of story for it. So there is a very thorough story planned for Joker. I just don't want to say when it's coming, because I'd rather, you know what I mean?
Be surprised.
Yeah, be surprised. But it's planned, and I hope you guys enjoy it when it happens. Yeah.
What or who influenced you to pursue your passion in writing?
My parents were always pretty supportive. I mean, which is embarrassing. I was always like, why are you so supportive? You're supposed to be like, you can't write. But they were supportive, and they don't know anything about it. They're both in medicine. My wife is sort of like the son my dad never had, They talk all medicine, and I'm like, what? I always call my wife, and she'll be in surgery, and I'm like, I have a very important question for you. I'm like, if Bruce Wayne is hit by gamma rays, she's like, that's not my field. I'm a surgeon. And I'm like, it's science. It's like click. Millions of fictional people's lives are hanging in the balance. But my parents were supportive, and it's a very scary thing. You go into writing, and there were a lot of lean years. I mean, there were some scary times. I was, tutoring and working Barnes & Noble, and we were not in a good way money-wise, and I didn't know what I was going to do, and I thought maybe I wouldn't make it, but I had a lot of supportive friends too that wanted to do it as well, and we just stuck together and showed each other our work, and eventually we began to turn around. But it's always very frightening. There's no real path with the arts. The things I would say is that there are ways of minimizing your chances, I think, of not doing it more than others. Like if you want to do it, you major it if you can in college. Find a place that has a major if you can. That was great for me because I started to make friends in that field, and we stuck together. And I'm still friends with my friends from writing workshop at that age, from half my life ago. And similarly, I went to grad school after taking a couple years away from academics because I felt I needed to get in the routine of writing every day. And my friends from that are still, again, friends that I show stuff now that I'm in comics still. So you build a community that's supportive. That's what I would say, is you got to find people that like what you do, and these conventions are great for that too, and you stick together and you show each other your stuff, because it's a really lonely job ultimately. It's a wonderful job, like I love it more than anything. I go to work extremely happy, but there's no glamour to it, honestly, beyond what you guys see at these kind of things like cons and that. Of course it's fun and glamorous that people come up and say, I love your work, or here's a book I rewrote. But the actual work is, I go in my boxers to my office after I take my kids to school, and I sit there from 9 to 3 and I write, and that's totally boring. Like, as it's like, it's not boring for me, I enjoy it, but I mean, that is your life, that is what you do, that's your job. And you have to get used to saying, I'm doing that every day, even on days I do not feel like it, and you have to find ways of getting past your writer's block, which everybody has, And I have friends that have all these different methods. I was saying, I had this one friend that, like, whenever she got past writer's block, she put a marble in a jar, and then, like, it was like, I got past writer's block. But her office is, like, filled with jars of marbles. It looks like a serial killer's office. It's like the scariest office to go into. It looks like doll's eyes everywhere. I couldn't work in here. This would give me writer's block. But anyway, you have to find what works for you, and respect your own process is what I'd say too. Like, I have friends that we have totally inverted processes from one another, where I need to know what the story's about, where it's going to end, what the major beats are. If I don't know those things, I can't write it. I need to figure out what it means to me before I begin. And I have other friends that the whole fun of it is figuring out what it means to them as they write it, based on a premise. And if that works for you, you do that. There's no right way. I had a couple bad teachers that were like, there is a right way. There's not at all. It's whatever works for you. The only right way is that you need to do it all the time. Like, you can't be like, I'm going to wait months till I'm inspired. And I'm not making fun of that. I'm just saying you'll never finish anything if that's what you do when it actually comes time to be like, you have a deadline, and the deadline is. Because that's one of the things I would just say to you guys. You got to remember, we're doing all this shit in continuity. Like, it's hard because, and it's wonderful hard, but it's hard. Meaning, like, I don't have the luxury of saying, I'm going to take 2 months off and figure out what's going to happen in the second Joker story. And just decide, maybe we'll do the issues later. If it's coming, it's coming. You know what I mean? And if I say I'm going to do 0 Year, and it's going to start in October, it does not stop. There's no way out of that. It goes, like, it's just going. So you better get good about deadlines, because that conveyor belt, once it starts moving, it does not stop, So that's one of the tricks. I mean, I do wish sometimes I think the farther along we get, maybe we'll try and do more prestige stuff. Because I love being on the conveyor belt and doing the main line, but it would be nice also to be doing stuff with Greg or whoever, where it's like, you do a story that's 6 months, and you take 6 months away, you do a story that's 6 months, and you take 6 months away, because it is a hard belt after a while too, And I've never been more excited for the stuff coming in Batman. I guarantee you, like, on my kids, I'm not bullshitting you to be like, pick up Batman. I mean, I'm not trying to sell it to you, it just is true. The stuff coming up in Endgame is some of the stuff I'm most excited about that we've ever done. The stuff coming after Endgame, the transformation of some of the mythology based on what happens in that story. Even in small ways, like the new characters brought in and old characters doing different things, all of that stuff is meant to make it rejuvenate it for you guys too, as a book where you're like, I didn't expect that to be the way it is. And so that's the goal, is to keep it exciting. But it's hard to keep it exciting in continuity, which means you gotta keep up with that. So you don't have the luxury of saying, I'm gonna wait and feel inspired. There's tons of days I don't feel inspired at all. You go down there and you know what you're gonna write is gonna suck, but you have to do it anyway. I mean, that's what writer's block to me in my mind is. It's like the fear of writing something bad, more than it is actual block, because you can still sit there and write. It's just you have to be able to say, what I'm gonna write today is gonna make me feel sad about myself. But I'm gonna do it anyway, because eventually I'll get to stuff that makes me feel good again about it. And you just steel yourself against that, you know what I mean?
Thank you.
Sure, yeah.
I was wondering what the writing process for Batman Eternal is. Is it kind of like a TV show where you guys all write in a writing room, or is it something different?
Yeah, I mean, Batman Eternal, the process is basically we make up the whole outline. Like, I made up the outline with James Tynan, and it kind of breaks down the big beats, so all the big things happening, arc by arc by arc. And then those guys we go in a room and we figure out what issues need to hit where, like what beats need to hit where, and then those guys really have the room to do the arcs the way they want, as long as they hit those beats, so that it doesn't feel like a mess of like different priorities and sensibilities chopped up into one issue. It's like Ray has 3 issues to get the story where it needs to be and to play while he has those 3 issues, and that's what happens. And we're very, we also have to be very far ahead. We're writing issue like 43 right now of it, so it's way, way ahead, that's the other thing. So that's kind of the process, but it's a great I love those guys. I mean, Tim, I've been hanging out with Tim here. He's a good friend. Ray is. I call Ray all the time, bother him like constantly. And obviously James was a former student of mine and is one of my close friends. And you know, Kyle and I came up together. So all of us, and John was always great too. So I mean, you try and surround yourself with people that you get along with and you respect, and then you just help each other make that thing way in advance is the only way to go, I guess, you know? Yeah.
If you weren't writing Batman or Superman when you were writing that, which character would you want to write? And no pressure or anything, but Green Arrow would be awesome.
Right. See Green Arrow tattoo. That's always my favorite when someone gets up to ask a question. They're dressed as Scarecrow or something. They're like, I have a question about Scarecrow. I would probably write Wonder Woman next if I could. I have a whole idea for her actually, which I've been dying to do, but I just don't. I can't. Doing Superman and Batman at the same time really taught me. I think I was capable of doing it, and I really enjoyed it, but I don't really. There's too much happening in Batman, honestly, for me. The stuff that I'm responsible for in terms of making sure the other books, I think, have room and are exciting to the people on those books and to you guys, and I do try and play a part in that, you know? Not pushing books and not directing the line or who's on the line, but once a book gets through, like Arkham Academy, right? Or Gotham Academy, I mean, or Arkham Manor, I feel like it's my responsibility too to help those books have room and be supported and to promote them, and you know, we're all part of a team in that way. So I just realized I just don't feel comfortable writing two big superheroes at one time, even though I'm fine. I'm capable of it and I enjoy it, it's just not my bag. I'd rather do creator-owned on the side as places to escape superheroes in some ways, and then have superheroes as a refreshing alternative to that. That's my balance, I realized it the hard way too. When I only had Superman and Batman, I got real depressed. And it was terrible because I love them both, and I love writing them, and I feel grateful to write them, but not having a place that I knew better than anybody that was like awake, because it hadn't started yet, that was really hard, because you're writing these two massive, important characters, and you have, they belong to everybody, and you don't have a place to go that's just totally your own cave where you're making stuff up that's yours. And that just got me crazy anxious and depressed, like terrified and depressed. And Greg was actually the one. Greg was a huge help. Greg was that's why I mean he's seriously one of my best friends in the way that Greg will like. I called him up. We were starting 0 Year, and I was like in tears, depressed. Like I love the story. I pitched the story. I know it's my favorite thing. I know it is, but I just don't have. I start writing it and I get panic attacks. Like panic attacks. I can't write it. You know. And he was just awesome. He was just like, he's like, talked me through, and you know, we hung out, and great. So I mean, I'm not built to do that, I think, and write two massive superheroes and not have a creator on the side. It's